Did you hear that? It's creepy. We'll just say that it's really creepy. That one came as a surprise. I never thought we'd do figs.
There you go. Oh goodness. Oh, and Sean got squirted. Sean is, you gotta love Sean's descriptions, right?
You guys know that story in the Bible where the patriarch wrestles an angel? I feel like I just wrestled the Yosted. That's what this felt like. This was a tough job, finishing out this brush. It wasn't so much the brush itself as it was the really, really intense, thick vines that just made doing anything a very complicated process. If you took down a large sapling or a small tree, it would be connected to all the other trees via this snake network of vines. And so I had to kind of hack my way through the whole assemblage of brush. And some of it was pretty tall in order to bring it down and cart it off. And so, okay, this is great for a couple reasons. We have a straight shot from the compost piles to our garden. Now, granted, the garden shed's in the way, but that's fine. We don't have to take all these detours anymore. The big goal eventually, talked about this I think in the last video, is to get some berries here. This area right here, and maybe more fruit trees. Which, by the way, before I leave, remind me to talk about our apple trees, which are doing great. Our copper treatment worked. So more fruit trees, berries, that's where we want all this to be. We want this to be an orchard, essentially. Now, there's this big mess right here. There used to be some kind of crazy tree here, and I think the previous occupants may have used this to store junk. So, I gotta move all this junk, this old dead stump. I mean, look at that. I could knock it down right now. Who knows what's in there? I'll do that another time. All this junk, this old stump, some of these old railroad ties that have rotted away. I got to move this down to the current junk pile, which is over there. That was there when we moved here. And do a little bit more groundwork, probably with the tractor, scrape it across, and voila, we'll have ourselves a really nice orchard area. One of the other things that I'll need to figure out to do is, you know, obviously this brush had to go somewhere. Now, a lot of it I put down in the woods. It's tomorrow's problem, right? When I get to clearing that area, then I'll worry about it. A lot of it I put here. I have no idea what we're going to do. We're going to wait for this to die out. Maybe Dad and I have been talking about getting a fork for the tractor. Maybe a fork could come in and scoop some of this away. I don't know. It remains to be seen. One thing I will say is, I think I talked about this in the previous video. We're happy because eventually we're going to have the meat chickens work their way down here to the compost. We're going to have the Premier 1 fence, several Premier 1 fences, probably just encompass this whole area. Except for the orchard. We'll have an orchard going and they won't get in that. Maybe they will. I don't know. But we'll have them come down here and the chickens will have access to this compost. So the compost will be in the chicken run because it'll come from there where I've got the breast chicken coop. So it's a lot of work. The time lapse made it quick, but it was not quick. It was an ordeal. Next step, I don't know when, probably next few days, next week or so. Get the tractor over here, move away all this junk, do a little bit more clearing. And the orchard area is coming along. This is a normal sized egg.
This is a big egg.
That's a big egg. Mm-hmm. And this is what I've heard described as a fart egg.
Or a fairy egg.
Or a fairy egg.
It's much nicer.
But we've been getting, I think,
Hold on, I'm turn this burner down.
We've been getting a bunch of eggs like this recently because I think some of our younger chickens.
This one's cute too.
That's a nice one. It's a little bit bigger. Kind of middle-sized one. Some of our younger chickens are starting to lay, so we get a lot of these. Getting a lot of these lately. Fairy eggs. We'll call it fairy eggs. Yes. Holly and I both wanted to see what was inside this one. If there's even a yolk.
Usually it's a white with like a little bitty blip of a what kind of looks like a yolk. Oh goodness! Oh, and Sean got squirted. Yeah, it's
a little
deranged.
Little snot kind of egg right there.
Well,
well, we could still eat it, right?
Yeah, eat the snot. Sean is. You gotta love Sean's descriptions, right? No, this is a normal egg.
That's a normal egg.
Yeah. This is the.
Let's see it. There's a little lip.
Medium one. That's a normal.
That's a pretty normal egg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and this one too. This one's small.
That's probably a normal egg.
There you go.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Morning, Lenny. Hey, gang. Morning. So we invested in a few plants for our orchard to get things started. A thornless blackberry, a blueberry species that's meant for this zone. There's a lot of highland or northern blueberry species. This one is meant for our zone. We're zone 7 something. I don't know the subzone, but it's 7 something. And this blueberry is appropriate for it. And we also kind of surprised ourselves and we got a fig tree. Most fig trees are actually meant for warmer climates. This one is meant, again, for our zone. And this one is going to be, I think they'll get to be about 10 foot tall, this fig tree. That's what the guy at the nursery was saying. So we've got some planning to do with the blackberry. We plan on propagating it and creating a line, putting it somewhere along behind here in the garden, behind the garden shed in this area. We'll get full sun here. The blueberry bushes, we still haven't decided exactly where we're going to put those. Those do prefer full sun. Probably somewhere back here after I clear this out. And the fig tree, We don't have a clue. We have no idea where we're going to put the fig tree. That's something we need to talk about. Maybe out by the apple trees. I'm not sure, but that one came as a surprise. I never thought we'd do figs because I didn't think we had the climate for it. So when we found out that there's a fig that's meant for this climate, that does well here, we said, you know what? Let's do figs. We like figs. Let's give it a shot. We invested in a fig tree. That's something I never saw coming. I'm pretty excited about it. I think over the next few days, I've got my work cut out for me. I've got to get this compost moved up to the beds, and then I got to take care of all this junk, move it out, and start clearing this land. Most of the orchard is going to be on the grass where I'm standing. So, there's not any immediate plans for this area right here, but it's eventually we're going to be putting, I think, more berry bushes there. So that's a project that'll carry out over the summer. But this area, I think we're about ready to go with it. Also, one thing. Did you hear that? Okay. You probably weren't able to pick it up on this. Oh, there it is again. It's somewhat faint. And you may or may not be able to hear it on this mic that I have on my phone. But there's the sound that I've been hearing on and off for the past few mornings. Not every morning, but at least 5 or 6 times a week. Somewhere out here in these woods, it sounds like a little kid talking. It has the sound of speech, of human speech. And I'll go out and look and say, hello. Nothing. There's no kid out there. It's creepy. We'll just say that it's really creepy. Either our homestead is haunted, there's a ghost that walks the woods of our homestead, or there's some kind of animal whose sounds resemble human speech, the human noise that a child would make, a human child. By the way, it's not Henry. Every time I've heard it, he's been inside or sleeping. He hasn't been out there where the noise is coming from. If anyone has any ideas of what types of animals sound like humans or sound like a little kid, please let me know, because it's creeping me out. I don't think we're haunted. One animal that I think might fit the bill is a fox. I've seen foxes around here, and I've heard people describe the sound that foxes make, and maybe I've listened to some sounds online. And foxes are one of those animals, like is it a member of the canine family? I honestly don't know. They're strange animals. They don't really fit into an easy peg, foxes, and they have a weird sound when they make noise, when they actually do make noise. It's not really a bark. It's kind of hard to describe. You can look it up. Maybe it's a fox. I don't know. I thought I just heard it a minute ago. I was out here the other morning and like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I'm like, whoa, there's somebody out here. Again, I don't think there's a little kid wandering the premises of our homestead. I don't think it's haunted either. I think there's an animal that sounds like a little kid. I'm going to do more research and hopefully I can get the sound better recorded, and maybe I can, when I actually have a sound, maybe I can trace whatever this thing is. But until then, I'm just going to be a little creeped out when I'm out here in the morning. Also, I wanted to give you an update on the Borax treatment for ants that Grammy recommended to us, my mom. And the verdict is maybe, somewhat. I think I just may need to use more, honestly. So as you can see, when we poke these giant ant hills, there are some ants that are still there, but it's nowhere near the number of ants that we used to see when we poked the ant hill a few days ago. This ant hill right here in the garden bed, there's a couple of ants that come out, but not many. The fact is we really haven't treated these ant hills beyond the kind of small amount that we did when Grammy was out here, when my mom was out here the other day. This small amount that we used seems to have really made a pretty significant impact. The ants are far less than they were. So I think what I'm going to do is just load up on more of this stuff, hit it harder with more borax, and that ought to do the trick, especially if I shovel away those ant hills, which I think is my next step. The verdict on the borax is it was definitely not an immediate, they're all gone, they're all killed, but it did make a pretty significant impact, which I'm happy about. I think I'm going to continue using it in larger quantities, and that should hopefully take care of the issue. So verdict is, borax, does it work? Probably. I think so. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. It may not seem like much, but every little chunk of work that we get done, whether it's on the orchard area or getting ready for meat chicks, is a step closer to where we want to be. The motto on this channel is slowly, slowly, but implied in that motto is that we're actually getting work done. If you're moving forward, that's the goal. Even if it's slow, you're moving forward, and that's what we're doing. I'm really excited about what this orchard can turn into, and I'm also really excited about the transformations we're making down there by the orchard area. Things are moving again, slowly, but they're moving, and that's the goal. So thanks for hanging out with us again, and until we see you next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.